I remember the exact color of the sky that day. A deep, endless blue streaked with lazy clouds, like the whole world was in perfect harmony. It felt like the universe was taking one long breath, right before everything went silent. I was 18, with a heart full of dreams. The same dreams so many of us have at that age. Freedom, beauty, success, love, and the hope of being noticed, of being chosen, of being seen. I left rural Colorado with a worn-out backpack and 2 smiles. Mine, hesitant, and my mom's, trembling at the edges. She said she was happy for me, but her eyes told a different story. She hugged me like she knew something was about to be lost. Maybe mothers always know before we do. I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I had, I might not have. Gone. And I needed to go. I wanted to be a model. I wanted someone, anyone, to tell me I was truly beautiful, that I mattered, that my skinny frame and quiet demeanor had a place in this world. I wanted to see life, to prove I was more than the shy girl raised between mountains and cowboys. I wanted to be someone. Paris was my destination. Paris, with its grand boulevards, charming cafes, and that unmistakable air of infinite possibility. The moment I stepped off the plane, my heart pounded like a tribal drum. It was an ancient rhythm, like my bones somehow knew I was crossing into something sacred. The city felt like it was calling my name. Everything sparkled, everything felt like a dream. On the second day, still dizzy with wonder and jet lag, I went for a walk through a beautiful neighborhood, where everyone looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. I was staring into shop windows, like someone peeking into a different world, when 2 men approached me. One of them had a camera around his neck and a smooth, effortless smile. "You, a model?" he asked in a soft accent, almost charming. I laughed, not really sure why. "Not yet," I said, trying to sound confident, but it was just nerves. "You could be. We run an agency. You've got the right face, the right body. You're in the right place." Those words felt like magic, like someone had finally seen me. The right face, the right body, the right place. God, how badly I wanted that to be true. They invited me for a toast. "Just 1 glass of wine," they said, "to celebrate something big, to toast to my future." I said yes. And then the light went out. When I opened my eyes, I had no idea where I was. The air was thick, heavy with mold, urine and fear. The floor was cold concrete. The walls were damp and dark, and the taste in my mouth was metallic, like rust. My head throbbed, and my body didn't feel like mine anymore. It was like someone had torn my soul away and left behind only flesh. I tried to stand, but something inside me had already collapsed. Something I wasn't sure would ever rise again. There were no windows, no clocks, just distant voices, doors slamming, footsteps, laughter, days or hours, I honestly don't know, bled together like a recurring nightmare. A loop of terror that played again every time I blinked. They drugged me, beat me, used me like I was nothing, a thing, an object someone had discarded. The first time I begged to die, it was in silence. The second time, I screamed. By the third, I only moved. My lips, I prayed for God to take me, to end it. But he didn't. I just stayed there, alone, forgotten. And then, at the very edge of that emptiness, something strange happened. I was curled on the floor in a dark corner when I noticed a tiny sliver of light slipping through a crack in the wall, so faint it could have gone unnoticed. But in that moment, to me, it was a miracle, a sign, a fragile thread tying me back to everything I had forgotten existed. I clung to that light like it was a rope tossed down by an angel. And there, in that soft beam, something inside me stirred, something they hadn't managed to kill. In that moment, I was no longer just the girl on the floor. I was no longer just the victim. I was the hope that survives through the cracks. I was resilience. I was the light. It wasn't a plan. There was no map, no logic. Just a moment, a silent snap deep in my soul, a desperate instinct that pushed me forward. The door was ajar, for the first time. A mistake, maybe. A risk. But when you've already lost everything, even risk feels like a chance. I stood up slowly, like I was carrying the weight of my body and all the days that had come before. The cold concrete was still beneath my feet, but something inside me had started to rise. A trace of strength, a memory of who I used to be. I dragged myself down that stifling hallway, fear clinging to my skin. Every step was a silent prayer. Every second, a test. The smell of mold, the grimy staircase, the muffled sound of life outside. It all felt new to me, like I was being born again in a parallel universe where breathing was still allowed. I crossed the building's front door without looking back. The air slapped my face. The cold woke me up. I ran, not knowing where my body ended or began. My feet hit the pavement with fury, with panic, with hunger for freedom. I tore through narrow streets. Turned corners I no longer remember. Past crooked lampposts, shuttered windows, indifferent glances. I didn't know if they were behind me, but that no longer mattered. The urgency was bigger than the fear. By the time I reached a busy road, it felt like my soul had been left somewhere behind. I walked like someone hollowed out, like the only thing left inside me was the raw will to keep breathing. A car slammed on its brakes. An older couple inside. They spoke quickly in French, their words tangled together like a nervous melody. They looked at me like they were seeing a ghost. I didn't understand what they were saying, but I remember the woman's touch. So different from the others. A touch without violence. She pulled a blanket from the back seat and gently laid it over my legs. So gentle it nearly shattered the armor I had been holding on to. I was trembling, but it wasn't from the cold. It was an internal collapse, a soul trying to gather its pieces. The police came, questions, forms, faces that were far too serious. They talked about me, not to me. Words were lost in translation. A doctor examined me without really seeing me. It was like my body had become a report, an exhibit. Nothing about me felt mine anymore. And then, like so many others before me, it was over. There was no investigation, no headlines, no promise of justice, no, "We'll take care of this." Just silence. A silence that would follow me for a long, long time. I returned to the U.S. with a suitcase and an emptiness no international flight could carry. On the outside, I was just a young woman coming home. But on the inside, I was rubble. I had survived. Yes, but surviving and living are very different things. Living requires a kind of courage I didn't think I had anymore. So I slipped into my old role, Cheryl, the sweet girl from Colorado. The one who went to Paris and gave up. No one asked questions, and I never offered answers. I hid behind well-practiced smiles, short sentences, and the illusion of normalcy. I worked. I studied. I did what was expected of me. But it felt like living under thick glass. I could see the world, but I couldn't touch it. I carried that secret alone for years. Not out of shame, but fear. Fear of being reduced to it. Fear of the pitying looks. Fear of not being believed, and guilt, that quiet companion, whispered cruel things. You got in that car. You should have known better. You trusted them. And those words, they don't ask for answers. They just want to destroy you. I tried to numb the pain with love. In Germany, I met a man who felt like he was made of kindness. His eyes seemed to see beyond all the walls I'd built. With him, for the first time in a long time, I laughed. We planned a life, talked about kids, adventures, a clean future, As if the past were just some forgotten footnote. I believed. I let myself believe. But life has its own plans. One ordinary morning, a phone call, an accident. He had taken his motorcycle out and never came back, just like that. No warning, no goodbye, just gone. This time, I didn't cry. I didn't fall apart. It was as if someone had blown out the last candle inside me. Days passed, then weeks, and I just existed. His death dragged me into a place even deeper than before. It wasn't just grief, it was the old trauma waking up again. Everything came back. The memories, the faces, the pain buried between my legs, the smell, the sound, the void. That's when I realized I was standing at a crossroads. Either I would let myself sink for good, or I'd try something that felt impossible. I'd keep going. I started small, a book club on a rainy afternoon, then a course on personal growth. There, surrounded by women with their own scars, I began to find parts of myself again. They told their stories with a kind of bravery that lit something in me, and in listening to them, I started to remember I wasn't alone. Others had fallen too, and others were trying to rise, and something inside me, as subtle as the rustle of leaves in a quiet field, began to stir. It was small, yes, but it was alive, and I was still here, and if I was still here, then maybe, just maybe, something good could still grow from all of this. Back then, I didn't know what to call what I was feeling, but today, looking back, I can say it with certainty. It was a calling, a quiet force, persistent, almost sacred. Something deep inside me whispered that there was a reason I was still here. And maybe, just maybe, that reason was bigger than my pain. So I began to study, to search for answers, not just to understand what had happened to me, but to figure out how to live through it. I learned that trauma hides in the subtlest corners of the soul, in the way we avoid eye contact, in the way we laugh when we're hurting, in the way we go silent when we should scream. Every seminar, every book, every conversation, they were like candles lit in a pitch-black room, and for the first time in years, I felt something stirring in me. A desire to help other women find their own candles. That's how I began speaking. At first, the talks were small, almost improvised. Then they grew, more structured, more focused. I spoke about resilience, about starting over, about finding meaning even among ruins. But there was one part of my story I never shared, the darkest part, the part that shaped me, but the one I feared would make people look at me differently. The truth. And then one day, everything changed. I was leading a group. A weekend retreat tucked away in a quiet place surrounded by trees and silence. There were women of all ages there, each carrying their own weight. One of them, I'll call her Anna, stood out, arms crossed, eyes hard, skeptical. But I saw her. I recognized her. On the second day, she snapped. This is all just talk. You don't know what it's like to lose everything. You don't know what it's like to be destroyed from the inside out. The other women recoiled. Even I felt the blow. My heart pounded. My body went cold. It was like I had been dragged back into that concrete room. Like those two men were staring at me again, telling me my voice didn't matter. But then, something shifted. A voice inside me, maybe the same one that helped me survive, whispered, "It's time." I took a deep breath, and I spoke. For the first time, I opened the locked box I'd kept hidden for so long. I told them about Paris, about the car, the wine, the cold cement, the muffled screams, the pain, the shame. I told it all. The room fell, silent. Time seemed to stop. When I finished, I didn't dare look up. I was terrified of what I might see, but then I felt something, arms around me, a gentle touch, a quiet sob. It was Anna, her eyes glassy with tears, and she whispered, "If you survived that, maybe I can too." And in that moment, everything changed. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about us. Every woman who's ever had her voice stolen, every scar we hide, every survivor walking among us in silence, thinking she's alone. From that day on, my purpose became clear. To turn my pain into a bridge, my story into a light, and my voice into an echo for those who still can't speak. Today, when I look back, I hardly recognize the girl who once dreamed of being a model. Not because she was weak, but because she didn't yet know just how strong she truly was. The truth is, strength doesn't come from what we're given. It comes from what survives inside us, even after everything else has been taken away. And if I could leave you with anything, especially you listening right now, it's this: you are not your scars. You are not what they did to you. You are what you chose to become after the pain, and maybe, just maybe, the thing you spent your whole life believing was your greatest weakness is exactly what makes you invincible. This is my story. But maybe, deep down, it's a little bit yours too. If this story spoke to you in any way, maybe because you've been through something hard yourself, or maybe you know someone who has, I'd love to hear from you. So many women fight their battles in silence, and sometimes a single shared story can make all the difference for someone trying to find their way back. How did you find your way through pain? Or what helped you take that very first step? Feel free to leave a comment below. Your voice, your experience, could inspire another woman to keep going. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening.